Good evening and welcome to Call Us Now. My name is Bill. I'm hosting the ceremonies tonight, and tonight's topic on Call Us Now is women in the military. So be thinking of your questions. And get ready to dial in. Our number 522-3564 will be taking your calls live on the air in just a couple seconds. I just want to, first of all, before I introduce our panel of experts, I want to thank our vast audience that has come down tonight. We'll be taking questions from our audience as well as the phone tonight, and I want to thank everyone in our audience that came down to the show tonight. Thank you all, and we'll be coming out to you shortly for questions. Now let me get to our panel of experts and our topic of women in the military. First of all, to my left is a gentleman who's been on our show before, Marsupial, who is, of course, very well known for his lines of cologne and has developed some new fragrances for women in the military, and we'll be hearing more about that pretty soon. Next to Mar is Lieutenant Chantal LaRouche, who obviously is a woman in the military. And next to the lieutenant, we have Mr. Stewart Breeder, who's been on our show before. We did try to get the commander of McCord Air Force Base on, and he was unable to make it at the last minute, so we got Stewart on. He used to be in the Coast Guard Reserve. That was back in the Vietnam
That was back during the Vietnam conflict. That's right. I was fighting for my country in the Coast Guard Reserve.
And is this in fact the Coast Guard uniform? What is this uniform?
No, I thought it'd be appropriate tonight, as you know from a previous show. I'm the head of Scout Troop number 407, the Fighting Weasels, and well, I thought, being this is a show on women in the military, and we sure don't allow any women in the Scouts, that I just wear my uniform tonight.
Okay.
I think it instill a little respect from the rest of the cast.
Uh-huh. Now, Lieutenant LaRouche, now you're based here locally. Where exactly are you based? Are you at McCord?
Yes, that's right. My family is in the military. My mother was in the Air Force. My father was in the Navy. I, of course, am in the Air Force and the Navy. I'm a fighter pilot. I graduated from Top Gun. I was in the 5 top in my class. 3 of those people were women.
3 were women. Okay, something for you folks at home to chew on a little bit. In fact, let's go to the phones and see if we've got a question right out there. Hi.
Hi.
Got a question for us tonight.
I want to know if the person there in the middle, if she read the article in Newsweek last week that said that 99% of all women in the military are lesbians.
You have a response to that?
Well, I think that that could not possibly be true. It is probably compiled by a bunch of men.
Now, Mar, you, of course, are very well known for marsupial colognes.
Yes, thank you.
You have recently developed a new fragrance for women in the military, and we're all kind of curious about this. Is this actually out on the market yet?
It's not out on the markets yet. We are still working on how exactly to push it on the public. This cologne, this perfume, this whole set of toiletries, that's a word I really like, is kind of formulated from the sweat of various women that we encountered in our research who had really fine sweat. Mm-hmm. I need some help tonight with your viewers, as a matter of fact, because we kind of need a name for our perfume. I had a couple of ideas here given to me. Maybe you will have an idea about this. First one, Warzone. Is that? Nah, me neither. How about Behind the Front? Huh? Behind the Front. Isn't that kind of sexy, kind of going over the obstacle course exciting, huh?
I think, Mr. Marsupial, you are just trying to gain a buck off of our U.S. military, and I think it is typically disgusting.
I am trying to make sweaty lesbian women smell better, and I don't think that's such a bad thing in this world. So take it easy. Let me tell you something else. My last one I had, I just call it Whack. What do you think of Whack? Would you buy that?
Coming from you, Mr. Marsupial, I do not think so.
It's very, I think it's whack is very it's masculine and feminine at the same time. It's just it's
Kind
a
of to the point.
woman in the military kind of feel. I like that one.
Okay, whack. Sort of going to be the
Whack's not
one I
too
think
bad.
about.
You know, Mark, or Mr. Supio, I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you're aware of it. I know Bill is, because I supply him on a regular basis. I'm the #1 Northwest Amway distributor. And I have a lot of nice fragrances from the Amway company. Some of our colognes double as concrete cleaner or wax remover for cars, and it also has a wonderful fragrance. Maybe it's something you could maybe mix with your behind the front stuff and come up with something really exciting.
Let's go out to our phones again.
Oh, Bill.
Hi there.
Oh, Bill,
Hi.
this is Mabel, and I saw your audience for the open house.
Yeah.
I hate to change the subject, but I was wondering if that was Mr. Dave Dunbar in the audience. He was my first husband, and I miss him.
Is that Mr. Dave Dunbar out in the audience? Well, tell you what. Why don't we go out to the audience? Let's get a question from the audience, and maybe we can find out about this Dave. This is kind of exciting. We haven't done this before on the show. Come on, come here. Do we have a question for our panel tonight? Anyone out here got a question? Well, a couple over here. Go ahead. Let's go to you. Okay.
Well, I'd like to ask would dominatrix be the right term? I have a little daughter here who someday may want to go out and, when she grows up, wants to kill people. And I'd like to know I'd like to know what proper training. Hasn't even gone through potty training yet, and I'd like to know if you can give me any advice on how to teach her to get that killer instinct.
Well, I would tell you, sir, that first you must pass potty training. We do not let women in the military who do not know how to use the latrine. That's right. My parents were in the military, and they taught me good. As soon as I got of age, I was in a military school, and it's just the regiment. It's about serving your country. It is not about the killing instinct. It's about serving the U.S. of A. And that is what my parents stood for, all America. It is not going out there and killing people. It's protecting our homeland and making sure that the enemy stays where the enemy should be, which is on the other side of our borders, sir.
Her ancestors come from the others. Her ancestors come from the other side of the border, so she's kind of like, yeah, she.
I think this one. I mean, this one has a future in the military. Now, we're talking about combat situations here. Do you think, seriously now, do you think women can really withstand the emotional pressure of combat situations?
Well, now I can answer that, I think, because it is my theory that if the woman smells good in the foxhole, foxhole, isn't that like what I should call it?
That's a good name. It's
That's
real good.
perfect.
Foxhole.
If she smells good in the foxhole, then I think she'll be more relaxed and more able to do her job if there were, say, a gentleman of the same persuasion, so to speak, there with her. Do you see what I mean?
What if she smells really good and they're out in combat and it's like there's a bunch of shooting from the people from the other side of the border that you mentioned? It's like, does the gentleman soldier let the lady soldier go out first? Does they do that kind of stuff?
I don't know. That's a good problem. What do you think, Sergeant?
I'm a lieutenant, sir. You may address me as a lieutenant, sir. In the studies that the Army and the military have given, the women have scored high above the men in stress levels. Men break down quite a lot more than the women do. We are able to handle stress a lot better than men.
So then they should get shot first coming out of the foxhole then.
They are able to handle the stress and make quicker judgments than the men who panic under such situations.
Let's go back to the phones here and see if we've got another question from a viewer out there in TV land. Hi.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question to the lieutenant. How does she feel about being married and being in the forces at the same time? Does marriage and actually being in combat go hand in hand?
Well, I know that there has been a lot of controversy as of late as to marrying soldiers, your fellow soldier in the military. Having men and women fighting along next to each other seems to be a problem as far as romance goes. As far as my particular situation goes and the way I was brought up, the way my parents brought me up, is that I am married to the military. I am married to my job. It is my lover. I devote to it what a lover would devote to me.
So, have you actually ever had any relations at all with other men in the military?
No.
Outside the military?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go back to our phones. Hi.
Hi, how about other women in the military?
Hey, we're back to that again. And I think the lieutenant, you in fact denied that even happens in the military, that it's all just a bunch of nasty rumors.
That's true. It's a bunch of homophobic men that are making those accusations.
Tell you what, let's take a little walk back over here. Come on, let's go over here to the audience. We got a question out here. Yeah.
First, I'd like to say that I like Foxhole. That I think that's
good.
That's a good.
Good. Another vote for Foxhole.
Mm-hmm. And second of all, to the lieutenant, like if you're like married to the military, does that mean like you're like a killer nun?
I suppose that the thing that I have in common, that the same thing that women who go into convents do, that I have devoted my whole life to a single purpose, theirs being that of their religion, and marrying the Lord, who I'm very close to myself.
You are close to the Lord and the military?
Well, yes, sir.
Huh. But not to men?
No, sir.
Just the Lord and the military?
That is right, sir.
Those are a couple of manly things, wouldn't you say, the Lord and the military? So, I mean, I don't understand. Let's clear the air right now. I don't understand why a nice young lady would want to wear men's clothing and act like a man and carry a gun and
I beg to differ with you right there, sir. Would you see a man dressed in what I am right now?
No,
Well, the top half, yes. I mean, you have a tie and a coat and a man's hat and well, you have a skirt on, and most men in the military don't wear skirts, I guess. But why do you want to do that? I don't understand. When I was in the Coast Guard Reserves, that was when men were men, and it took a man to be in the Coast Guard Reserves. That one weekend a month that I had to serve was living hell. It was just hell. I was stationed at Pacific Beach down by Capelas, and sometimes it rained all the time, and the waters were rough, and it was terrible.
Now,
the woman couldn't put up with that.
That does bring up, I mentioned the emotional stress of combat. What about the whole physical aspect? Can a woman endure combat and training, the physical side of things, carrying guns, that sort of thing?
Well, Bill, the percentage of body fat on a woman is a lot higher than it is on a man because, of course, we were built by nature to bear children. That allows us to float easier than men do. Also, we are smaller. We have smaller frames, and we are quicker when it comes to running through the bush. And we can hide better.
There's a name, running through the bush.
I like that a lot.
I'm sorry.
Running through the bush. Has a real kind of earthy sexiness to it. I like that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
We're going back to the phone, see who we got out there. Hi.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask the lieutenant if she has ever experienced PMS during training, basic training. I'm wondering why she seems so repressed.
Well, sir, to be quite honest with you, since my growing up in the military, with my father being in the Air Force and my mother being in the Navy, I have never had a menstrual period.
Wow. Now, Stewart, got a question for you. Now, what would you say if your lovely wife, Denise, who's been on our show previously...
Hi, Denise. Hi, hon. She's home with Joshua, Jacob, and Jason tonight, taking care of the boys.
What if she came to you one day and said she wanted to join the military, become a member of the United States Army?
Well, I think you can remember when she was held hostage for 6 months by Happy House Realty. You remember how miserable I was without her? You remember how I was, oh gosh, I sure was miserable. And if she wanted to leave home and go fight for her country and do the patriotic thing and serve her country in an honorable way and do something wonderful, and well, I'd be miserable. But if she wanted to do that, I'd understand. So that's fine. I would miss her terribly, but if she wants to go, go.
Okay. Let's go back to the phones. Hi.
Yeah, for the lieutenant. How'd you get involved in the military?
Well, like I said before, both my parents were involved in the military and their parents as well. We have a long line of military folk in my family. It is, excuse me, it is a family tradition, something that we just cannot deny. And my children will be in the military and their children will be in the military as long as I'm alive.
I've got a question for Mar here. We got to go to a commercial here in just a couple seconds, but I want to ask Mar a question before we go to that. You're wearing fatigues. Is this just for style, or have you yourself had any military experience?
No, Bill, I have not been in the military myself. This is just sort of something new to advertise my new line of perfumes. You see, I believe that when women are young children, which of course then they wouldn't be women, but you understand, if they are given more smell goods, if they are oriented more toward men, but toward living and loving and housekeeping, that I think the women's involvement in the military would go down. And I think that this would be important. I'm not entirely clear why, but I think it would be very important.
On that note, let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in just a couple seconds. Well, on second thought, let's take a phone call.
888 man.
Hi there. Hi, you're on.
Hello?
Hi there.
I think we got a cross. Oh, hello?
Hi.
Oh, I think your panel tonight, Bill, I think they've got their femininity and masculinity mixed up, possibly.
How so?
Well, the lieutenant seems a little bit mannish. The one on the left seems a little too effeminate. And the guy on the right, he's just a total wimp. He should go sell snow tires, I think.
Well, sounds like a profitable way to make a living, but I'm making so darn much money selling ammo, I wouldn't have time. I mean, if there's anything I have anything to do with tires, it's wearing them out, driving around and dropping off ammo to people that used to be my friends.
Let's, well, I'll tell you what. Come along with me. Let's go back to the audience for another question. Come on. We got another question about women in the military from anyone in the audience here. We got it way down here at the end. Let's get it.
Tengo una pregunta para la dama, y ¿cuál es? ¿Por qué tienen tantos problemas en Nicaragua?
I think she's asking about the problems in Nicaragua. My Spanish is a little bit rusty, but at this point in time, I am under strict orders not to discuss the problem. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I'm not. And the problem, this whole Nicaraguan thing, is because they live in these little houses. They don't have a lot of money there, and they live in these little houses, and it gets real crowded, and there's a lot of people, and it gets dirty in the houses. And if they had Amway, in Nicaragua, and they could keep those places clean, then everybody would be happy.
Okay.
Hola.
Let's take another question out here. Any other questions from the audience out here? Women in the military. It's our topic. We got one back here. We've weaseled someone into a question. Okay.
How do you go out or fraternize with the other officers without getting in trouble?
Good question.
Well, fraternizing just means having a good time. You cannot get in trouble for just going out and playing cards with people. You can't get in trouble for going out and dancing and things like that. I don't know, it's pretty easy not to get in trouble being out with fellow officers.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take our commercial break right now, and then we'll be back in a couple seconds to talk more about women in the military.
I'm a typical Pacific Northwest woman. I work hard all day. When I come home, I just want to relax for a while, then get dressed up and go out to get picked up in bars. Sure, I'm concerned about downtown construction, garbage disposal, the homeless, and all that stuff. But who has time to think about it? Stresses me out. Let someone else think about it, I say. That's why I'm voting Bill for mayor. Bill, let's elect one of us for a change.
Oh, hi, we're back.
Can I say something,
Yeah.
Phil? Now that was a feminine. That was a lady. That's somebody that knew what it was like to be a lady. And maybe you could take a few pointers from the young lady that was just in that commercial.
That was someone who was paid to look like a woman in a man's image. Do you understand what I'm saying? The women today, the women that you see on magazines and the women that you see on television are women that are designed by men to please men. If a woman wants to do what she wants to do, then she will do what she wants to do, whether she looks like she wants to look or looks like somebody else.
I think a lot of men imagine their women to look like you. I don't know. Maybe not me personally, but I think probably a lot of men do. Now,
Thank you.
What other positions, you went to Top Gun school, what are some other areas that women could go into in the military?
Well, I think that the only areas available for women, now I'm not trying to restrict them, but I say that only in managerial positions and leadership posts, just because the women are highly intelligent and are more equipped for these job requirements.
What about? I don't want to make any assertions here, but
No, I'm sure you don't.
No, Denise gets awfully crabby sometimes, very, very crabby, and I'd hate to think of her in that kind of a mood driving a tank or a boat or something. I mean, if she was in that kind of mood, she'd take that boat and run right over somebody if she didn't like them. And well, men don't have that crabiosity problem like women do. So how can somebody be in the military and be an officer and be crabby like that?
By rigorous training. That's what we call boot camp, sir.
Didn't you go through boot camp to be a scoutmaster?
Of course you did. I had well, they call them jamborees, and you go and you take pieces of rope and make knots and shellac them on pieces of plywood, and then you take a wood burner and you write words around the knots, and it's a pretty darn tough week there. So of course I've been through boot camp.
And you made it through
Are you sure it wasn't summer camp?
No, it was a jamboree, like I said, and we had little pup tents, and we had to be up by 8 o'clock in the morning and had to do those knots and had free swim period, and it was tough. It was hard.
It sounds to me, sir, like you are just a military wannabe and you are just a wuss.
Now, how could you consider me a wannabe after I served a weekend a month for 6 years at Pacific Beach in the Coast Guard Reserves? I mean, that's not a wannabe. That's a fighting man.
Let's talk marketing here for just a second, if I could.
Good, more into my area.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, just a couple questions about this new perfume that you're going to have for women in the military. What kind of packaging are you going to have, and how exactly are you going to get it to the women? Is it going to be in PXs, standard issue stuff, or what exactly?
That's a possibility, but we're really considering direct mail. You know, because with the military, there's just one address, so we save a lot of money on labeling.
It's a good name, direct mail, excuse me.
Direct mail? Hey, direct mail, that's pretty good. I feel like Foxhole the best, though.
Okay.
So we're thinking about direct mailing it, just saying like to woman USO. Isn't that what you do? Woman USO, US government. And sending little samples. And we think once these huge and sweaty women get one whiff of this new scent that they will really want to purchase it, and it will be off flying.
Don't you think that might increase this whole fraternization problem that has just recently surfaced? I mean, suddenly they're going to be smelling good for a change, and...
Right, well, you know, I feel like the fraternization isn't really a problem. It's part of being human, and that's not my problem. You mean, like, if they're suddenly dating each other?
Yeah.
Well, I think that'd be good. You know,
I think, Mr. Marsupial, your values are all screwed up. If you spent half the time that you spent and the time and energy that you put into marketing and to making money for your slimy self, then you could be going to the front and saving this country from the disaster that it is about to compel itself into.
What disaster is that?
I'm not at liberty to speak about that right now.
A little Amway to clean up that slimy problem she mentioned.
I think Amway is a communist-backed company.
No, actually it's not. It's a Mary Kay-backed company.
Let's go back to the phones. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I've been watching your show a brief time here, and I was wondering 3 simple questions. The Boy Scout up there on the right, could he explain multi-level sales and the Amway program? And then the lieutenant, don't you think she's showing a bit much too leg? And you with the microphone, can you plant seeds in those furrows you're creating with your forehead?
I don't think I understand the last question at all, but I guess we could address the other two.
Okay, well, multi-level. Let's say that Bill's forehead are the many levels of marketing. Let's say the lower level is where you start out. You have a close-up there, and the lower level is where you start out, and you buy $1,500 worth of Amway products. And then you move up to the next level, would be the next furrow, and you get new people in the lower level. Usually you get friends, and you sell them this $1,500 worth of stuff, and you do it for $2,000, and then when you succeeded at that, you move up to the next furrow, and then the people that you, and it goes on and on and on, and you have to make a lot of new friends because you lose a lot of the old ones, but that's how it works. You basically screw everybody that's underneath you out of $1,500.
Now that we've had the visualization, I do understand it a lot better. And as far as too much leg in this particular uniform, is this your dress
yes, sir.
uniform?
This is my dress uniform. This is when I go out into civilian life, and I want to look good.
Okay, and gentlemen, do you think she does in fact look good?
She looks pretty good to me, yeah.
If she wore a dress like that woman did in a commercial for your mayoral candidacy, which I'd like to tell you I support 100%, I mean, that was a pretty woman. And her dress was short on top, too. She didn't have a tie and a coat and stuff, and that was pretty. So, I like the bottom.
Now, what about her smell, Mar? I mean, you're sitting right next to her.
I've been trying to get a whiff of it, but, you know, she smells like completely clean concrete smells like. Do you know what I mean? There's just like a void of odor there.
Well, thank you, sir. That's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
It could be, you know, if we got together later, I could show you a few things to make you maybe come off a little less harsh to people. What do you think?
You think I come off too harsh?
A little bit harsh, a little bit stiff, you know. We could work on it.
Let's journey out to our audience one last time for let's take one last question. Oh, sorry, I went a little too quick there. I'll go a little slower. There we go. Let's see if we got one last question. We got a question right here. Okay.
I have a question for Mar. Do you have a sample of your perfume that we can smell right now?
I have a sample, but I left it in my coat outside there. But I can let everyone in the viewing audience have a whiff of it as soon as we're off the air. It is really good. You'll really like it. The men will like it too. Of course, you can't wear it. We won't let you. You especially. All right.
Okay, so that's going to be quite an enforcement, allowing women only to wear it. It's going to be a cologne for women only.
That's right.
I don't think anything like that exists.
Well, except not too many people wear. Not too many men wear white shoulders, you know. Kind of people enforce themselves, sort of. You know.
Anything in store for men in the military? Maybe something geared specifically for men.
Yes,
cologne,
well,
like an aftershave or something.
Yes, well, we have the whole marsupial colognes, good for men of all kinds.
Okay.
And we are still selling that very successfully to men in the military, men who dig ditches, and, you know, that kind of thing.
And tanks,
At this point in time, Bill, I would like to say that there has been many studies taken between men and women in the military as how many men are in the military versus women in the military, and 90% of the men in the military are running from a police record. 99.9% of the women in the military have a college degree and are pursuing the military as a career rather than a form of escape. So with that, we can look forward to the military coming up in the world as a stronger career for women.
Okay, going back to the phones here. Hi.
How you doing? I got a question for Marv. He's been real quiet most evenings except for the last segment there. Marv, what do you think about the lieutenant? I mean, is this the type of prude that you would be interested in? What are your feelings on her? I find her. I think she has a real outer facade. I think inside she's a real miserable person. I think she's very opinionated. and a very condescending individual, and I want to get your feelings on that because I value your beliefs.
Do you use marsupial cologne, by the way? I'm just curious.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And I've been very pleased with it.
It's been working, lots of women?
Well, that's not so much the case. I'm a married man, but I own a corporation, and most of my employees utilize your cologne. You want to touch base on the issue with the gal next to you. I think she's a prude, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, I agree. Of course, I also feel like she is one of those rare conquests, you know? The more hard they are, the more you think I could get under there, you know what I mean? And so when I see her, I kind of think, wow, just an extra something or other to try, you know? More cologne, maybe, another splash.
Is that the cologne that you're wearing right now?
I am, of course, wearing marsupial cologne right now, yes.
I'm wearing drain cleaner. What's an otter facade? The guy asked about an otter facade.
Oh, sort of furry and
Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you all for being here tonight.
I can think of nothing to say.